Unless you've somehow been completely disconnected from the internet for the last decade, you've almost certainly heard of K-pop. What began as a regional music scene rooted in South Korea has evolved into a cultural force that now stretches across continents. Songs rack up billions of streams, albums dominate global charts, and artists who once performed in small studios now sell out stadiums in cities thousands of miles from Seoul. K-pop idols walk red carpets in the United States, win major international awards, and collaborate with some of the biggest names in Western music. To the outside world, it looks like a perfectly engineered dream machine, one that produces hit after hit and stars who seem flawless in every possible way. And yet, the more you look past the surface, the more that perfection starts to crack. Because behind the polished choreography, the flawless visuals, and the carefully curated personalities, there exists an industry that can be brutally demanding, deeply controlling, and at times, devastatingly cruel to the very people who fuel its success. For every glamorous moment on stage, there is often an unseen cost paid far from the spotlight. K-pop's rise didn't happen by accident. It was the result of decades of strategic planning by entertainment companies that treated music not just as art, but as a highly structured product. These agencies didn't simply sign artists, they created them. Young trainees, sometimes as young as 10 or 11, are recruited based on potential rather than skill. From that moment on, their lives are no longer entirely their own. They enter a system designed to mold them into idols, a word that carries far more weight in Korea than celebrity does elsewhere. In Western pop culture, fans may admire artists, but they rarely expect them to be morally perfect. In K-pop, the expectations are different. Idols are meant to be aspirational figures in every sense. They are expected to look perfect, behave perfectly, and live in a way that aligns with the fantasies projected onto them by fans. Every haircut, every outfit, every facial expression is analyzed. Even the smallest perceived mistake can trigger backlash, intense enough to derail an entire career. This pressure begins long before an idol ever debuts. Trainee life is often described as one of the most grueling apprenticeships in entertainment. Days routinely stretch to 12 or 15 hours of singing practice, dance rehearsals, language lessons, and media training. Sleep is limited. Personal time is almost non-existent. Many trainees live together in dorms, away from their families, under constant supervision. Dating is usually forbidden. In some cases, even owning a personal phone is restricted. What makes this even more difficult is the uncertainty. For every trainee who eventually debuts, dozens never will. Years of training can end abruptly with a simple dismiss, leaving young people who sacrifice their education, friendships, and childhoods with nothing to show for it. And even those who do debut aren't guaranteed success. Many groups disband quietly after a single album, buried by debt and forgotten by an industry that quickly moves on to the next hopefuls. One of the most controversial aspects of the K-pop system is the contracts. Often signed when trainees are still minors, these agreements can bind idols to agencies for a decade or more. In the past, some contracts were so restrictive they were nicknamed slave contracts. They offered little pay, limited freedom, and heavy penalties for breaking the agreement. Although reforms have been made following public backlash and lawsuits, stories of unfair treatment continue to surface. For many idols, money doesn't start flowing right away, if it ever does. Before earning a profit, idols are often required to pay back the cost of their training, housing, food, and promotional activities. This can leave artists performing hundreds of shows without seeing a single paycheck. Some former idols have spoken openly about touring constantly, appearing on television, and still struggling financially because their earnings were swallowed by debt owed to their agencies. Beyond finances, there is the issue of image. K-pop places immense emphasis on appearance, and idols are constantly reminded that their bodies are part of the product. Extreme dieting is common. Many idols have spoken about surviving on minimal calories, being weighed daily, and being reprimanded for even slight weight gain. These practices can lead to long-term health problems, eating disorders, and severe anxiety. Plastic surgery is another topic often whispered about but rarely addressed openly. While cosmetic procedures are common in South Korea in general, idols face unique pressure to conform to narrow beauty standards. Some are encouraged or outright pushed to alter their appearance to better fit the company's vision. For young trainees still forming their identities, this can be deeply damaging, creating a sense that who they naturally are is never enough. The mental toll of this environment cannot be overstated. Idols live under constant surveillance, not just from companies, but from fans and media. Privacy is almost non-existent. Mistakes that would be minor for other celebrities can explode into scandals overnight. A leaked photo, a rumored relationship, or an offhand comment can spark outrage, boycotts, and calls for an idol to leave their group. Romantic relationships, in particular, remain a taboo subject. Many agencies enforce dating bans, especially in the early years of an idol's career. When relationships are exposed, the backlash can be severe. Some idols have been forced to issue public apologies simply for being in love. Others have been removed from groups entirely. The message is clear: personal happiness is secondary to maintaining the fantasy fans have paid into. This lack of personal freedom can leave idols feeling isolated and emotionally stunted. While they may be adored by millions, they often struggle to form genuine connections. The persona they present to the world is carefully crafted, leaving little room for authenticity. Over time, the gap between who they are and who they're expected to be can become unbearable. Adding to this pressure is the darker side of fandom culture. While many fans are supportive and loving, there exists a subset known for obsessive and invasive behavior. These individuals track idols' movements, follow them home, hack personal information, and cross boundaries that would be considered criminal in any other context. Some idols have had their homes broken into. Others have received threats, tampered gifts, or been physically endangered. There have even been cases where idols were targeted by so-called anti-fans, people who actively seek to harm or sabotage them. Incidents involving poisoning attempts, staged accidents, and on-stage attacks have occurred, highlighting just how dangerous fame can be in this industry. Despite this, security measures and legal consequences often lag behind, leaving artists vulnerable. Tragically, the cumulative effect of these pressures has led to numerous losses. Over the years, the K-pop world has mourned the deaths of several young artists, many of whom struggled with mental health issues exacerbated by industry demands and online harassment. Each loss sparks a wave of grief and calls for change, yet the system itself seems slow to evolve. In many cases, warning signs were visible long before tragedy struck. Idols spoke about exhaustion, anxiety, and feeling trapped. Some took hiatuses for mental health reasons, only to return to the same environment that caused the harm in the first place. Others felt they had no choice but to keep going, fearing that stepping back would mean being replaced or forgotten. At the same time, it's important to recognize that not every story ends in heartbreak. Some idols manage to carve out healthier paths, renegotiate contracts, or transition into different careers. In recent years, conversations around mental health have become more open, and some agencies have begun offering counseling and rest periods. Fans, too, are becoming more vocal about protecting idols rather than consuming them. Still, progress is uneven. For every positive change, there are reminders of how deeply entrenched the old system remains. Scandals involving abuse of power, exploitation, and criminal behavior continue to surface, proving that fame can corrupt just as easily as it can destroy. In some cases, idols themselves become perpetrators, shielded for years by their status before facing consequences that end their careers permanently. These stories complicate the narrative. They remind us that idols are human, capable of making terrible choices just like anyone else. They also highlight how an environment built on control, secrecy, and image can enable harmful behavior to go unchecked until it reaches a breaking point. So, where does that leave K-pop today? It exists in a strange contradiction. It is one of the most successful entertainment exports in history, beloved by millions for its music, artistry, and innovation. At the same time, it is an industry that has repeatedly shown a willingness to sacrifice individual well-being for profit and perfection. For fans, this creates a difficult tension. Loving the music often means confronting uncomfortable truths about how it's made, Supporting idols can feel complicated when the system behind them remains flawed. And yet, walking away entirely doesn't feel right either, especially when so many artists genuinely love performing and connecting with their audience. The future of K-pop depends on whether meaningful change can keep pace with its global growth. That means fairer contracts, stronger mental health support, realistic expectations, and a shift away from treating people like disposable products. It means recognizing idols not as flawless ideals, but as individuals deserving of dignity, privacy, and care. Until then, the world will continue to see both sides of K-pop, the breathtaking performances that unite fans across cultures, and the hidden struggles that too often end in silence. The hope is that by acknowledging the darkness, rather than ignoring it, the industry can move towards something better. Because when so much of this pain is preventable, accepting it as normal would be the greatest tragedy of all.